Welcome to the Intrazone Roadmap Pitstop June 2020 edition. This is a bonus monthly show that answers that burning question in your mind. What is rolling out now for SharePoint and related technology in Microsoft 365? I'm Mark Cashman, Senior Product Manager on the Microsoft 365 marketing team. This month, I talk with Kathy Du, a Senior Program Manager on the SharePoint team, focused on all things design and user experiences across the whole of SharePoint experiences, most recently aligning with and adopting to the Microsoft Fluent Design System, providing consistency throughout. And this month, one main update can be categorized by the phrase from blue to teal. We'll go into more depth when we chat with Kathy. Consider this the message center for everyone. June sorta zipped by and not without numerous updates, improvements, and new features. Let's start first with employee engagement. It is time to bring the big files. Bring them. Microsoft 365 now supports up to 100 gigabyte file sizes per file into Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint. We're increasing the max file size from 15 gigabytes to 100 gigabytes for individual files. For best performance, we recommend uploading very large files using OneDrive Sync, and it too applies to content migration scenarios. The end result being productivity enhancement and protection on more files in your organization, even the big ones, by getting them into Microsoft 365, now with fewer size limitations. Seek and ye shall find. Acronym answers are now available with Microsoft Search in SharePoint. This allows search administrators and editors to create definitions for commonly used acronyms to help people discover their meaning, be it new or unfamiliar. So, if someone's TLDR uses too many TLAs and you find yourself a little PO'd in SOL, breathe. Head up to the search box and solve that riddle. Move your psyche out of the DMZ into this FAQ bot of sorts and get ready for a whole lot of LOL with less and less FOMO over time. That's Microsoft Search Acronym Answers, FTW, exclamation point. You can now enable the communication site experience for classic SharePoint team sites. This optional feature allows SharePoint admins and site owners to enable the modern communication site experience on any classic team site that meets the requirements, including the root site. A SharePoint communication site is a great tool for sharing information with others in your organization, and now, classic team sites can enjoy the benefits of modern communication sites. That means a modern homepage, full-width pages with horizontal navigation, and improved capabilities to share news, reports, statuses, and other information in a much more visually compelling way. SharePoint admins or site owners must run the Enable SPO ComSite PowerShell commandlet. And note this action does not change any site permissions or remove any content, nor does it create a new Microsoft 365 Groups membership. A lot of great documentation on how to do this. Let's take a moment to talk analytics. How do you measure the value of SharePoint? I know that is a weighty question. Part of the answer falls in the ability to understand the average time people spend on any given site. We're adding a new report on the SharePoint site usage page that details the average time spent per user. Each site has this dedicated analytics page. You'll see a trend line for the time people spend on site pages and news posts for 7-day and 30-day periods. The average metric is calculated by comparing the time spent on that page with the number of unique visitors on that page in a given time frame. Note, the report does not yet include time on lists, in documents, site admin pages, or when you're viewing from mobile. Again, a lot more documentation, but staying with analytics for a moment, let's talk about cumulative analytics for SharePoint hub sites. SharePoint hub sites make it easy to organize information and collaboration based on project, department, division, or region. And this report provides site owners and members a cumulative look, an insight to all the unique viewers, total visits, top sites, and most popular content for all sites that are a part of that hub site. To view these reports, site owners or members need to go to the hub site and select Site Usage Data. By default, you'll see all analytics for all sites, yet it is possible to view data only for the hub site itself. For admins, we want to call attention to a consolidation of all things migration in the SharePoint Admin Center in Microsoft 365. This is essentially a new migration landing page within the SharePoint Admin Center. Click on Migration to see everything. That is, Migration Manager for scaling file share migrations, plus links out to the SharePoint Migration Tool for migrating from on-premises SharePoint server, and out to Mover for cloud-to-cloud migrations, all on one page instead of separate tabs. Consider this the Migration Center for all things file shares and SharePoint into Microsoft 365, moving content into OneDrive, SharePoint, and Microsoft Teams. By now, you are fluent on all things employee engagement in the month of June, which means you're ready to hear more about the recent Fluent UI design updates for SharePoint default site themes. That's right, let's move from the world of default blue, so blue, to SharePoint teal, where all things are shiny and new. Let's take a moment to dig deeper on this one and related recent SharePoint design updates. Coming up, an Intrazone Roadmap Pitstop chat exclusive with Kathy Du, Senior Program Manager on all things teal and Fluent. It is now time to take a pause talking about June 2020 roadmap to actually hear from a senior program manager who is really focused on the look and feel. And you're going to hear words like Fluent and, of course, design. You probably know Kathy from before her Microsoft days, but I want to introduce Kathy Du, Senior Program Manager, currently focused on all things blue to teal, and I will let her explain that. But she's got a little bit of a different journey coming in as a Microsoft MVP, working now at Microsoft. So, Kathy, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, Mark, for having me. I really appreciate it.
So that people don't just hear it from me, what has your journey been, in a manner of speaking, pre-Microsoft and now at Microsoft on the SharePoint team?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting journey to get to the SharePoint team here at Microsoft for me over the years. So I originally started out, I actually have a fine arts degree from college. That's what I went to school for, graphic design and painting, and really taking that creativity. I worked in advertising. Then I started working as a consultant in the early days of SharePoint, back in the SharePoint 2003 days. And I spent a lot of time as a consultant and then was awarded MVP and had an MVP designation, was lucky to get that for 5 years before I joined Microsoft. And then I came into Microsoft first, not into the SharePoint team, but I actually worked with Power Apps and Flow, Power Automate now, when they were initially launching and helping out with some of the efforts around that to start out with. And then I really just wanted to come home to SharePoint. And so luckily I was able to make that transition over now into the SharePoint engineering team and working as a program manager in the team. And like you said, I'm really focused on a lot of the look and feel and the user experience aspects within SharePoint, and really excited to marry my two loves of art, design, and SharePoint back together again.
I think it's great. I know the team has obviously been focused on design for quite some time. And my bet is, as an MVP, you were providing them insights about product and design. And to know that you have that background obviously brings some weight to it, not just being an MVP, but actually having a degree and being able to showcase that. You know, there was one thing that I know about you that I think is one of the most important things, especially when you're trying to get on your good side. You are a fan of Dr. Pepper. Am I right?
I am. I'm actually sipping on one right now. now.
I think we all have our drink of choice. I know with Naomi Moneypenny, it's the Orange Monster. So I'm just going to lock in my head Dr. Pepper still. So I know the right dress wear or / drinks to provide anytime we're in person again.
Yeah, it's that kind of developer homage for me of having that high energy, high caffeine drink.
Well, now we know what keeps you going besides your good work. Let's dive beyond Dr. Pepper. Obviously, the journey into Microsoft gives you a lot of credibility, both for the outbound, but also, how you work with the engineering team. And I bet that first blend into Microsoft, it really probably helped. But now that you've been within the Microsoft walls and you really are starting to influence, if not already, translating into what's coming to market. Before we dive into what's rolling out June 2020, I want to hear more about how you and the team think about the philosophy and the planning behind the broader scope of Fluent and what that means to SharePoint, in that we've been updating the SharePoint user interface in a Fluent way. Maybe define Fluent and then translate that into what does that mean for SharePoint?
Yeah, so thanks for asking. So the Fluent design system is a new concept behind Microsoft design in general. So this isn't something that's specific to SharePoint, but it goes across the entire Microsoft ecosystem. And it's something that we were all encouraged as products to adopt and to create a common visual design standard across all of our products within the platform within Microsoft. So as we started looking at this from the SharePoint perspective in particular, we started looking into all of our different experiences in our UI and what that actually meant to translate this new Fluent design system into SharePoint and how would we go about implementing it. And we've spent a lot of time with this. You may have seen it. It has already transitioned in OneDrive, and some of our other partner products have already transitioned into Fluent. I believe Yammer has as well. Within SharePoint, as many of you know, SharePoint does a lot of things and there are a lot of UI elements, and we hold ourselves to a really high craft bar. And so we wanted to make sure that not only as we introduce this into our own platform and experiences within the SharePoint product, that it was something that was pleasant and visually pleasing for our customers, as well as extended out into something that would be an easy transition for our third-party developer and our ecosystem and our community as well. So we really took a slow approach to rolling this out. We're really excited that we're going to begin shipping it this month.
And so you're talking about typefaces, drop shadows, items within the UI, big and small. I also like to think about what both your team is doing and how it plays into the broader ecosystem of our own first-party application portfolio. So Microsoft 365, if you start pretty myopically in SharePoint OneDrive and then pull back and see more aspects that each of those products cover and start to play into Teams and play out into things like Power Automate and Power Apps, and there's a lot of touch points. And if everybody's adopting Fluent in the way that you described, the outbound result is, if I'm saying it right, a consistent experience visually, so it's less jarring, more consistent, and just feels like it's a cohesive product that may have started as very separate products, but really year over year, month over month is being combined to be more of a singular offering, that Microsoft 365 offering.
Yes, we've really been going towards that kind of one Microsoft mentality of you should feel the same visual experience as you span across products. And within that M365 platform, they should all feel the same. And I shouldn't really notice jarring visual distinctions between products. And like you said, some of the big things that we put in place as part of the Fluent system was really to help improve accessibility. Some of the really subtle changes that you may not even notice, but the color that we use for fonts and most of our lines and all the different components within SharePoint is just becoming a slightly darker gray. And so making that distinction to a slightly darker color makes that more accessible. We've increased font sizes and weights on some items. One of the things that you'll notice is in document libraries and lists, the column headings and the titles on these will get bolder and larger. And so you'll start start to see some of these subtle differences come into play, but it's really taking that focus on making everything feel consistent while also taking a large step towards improving things like accessibility, which is really important in the design world to make sure that SharePoint is really accessible for everyone.
We did a specific episode on accessibility in the broadest sense, and that inclusion nature, especially for visual impairment and other ways that just the enhancements that you have described, how that plays into somebody being able to access and understand their content better, or the notion of what somebody else has done that they're seeing for the first time. It's just more engaging or, again, easier. But one word I've heard you use the word subtle a couple of times, and I think that's a good word because might translate that sometimes we don't really talk about it too much. It may just be the acceptance of, well, this is what Contoso looks like right now when we do our demos and whatnot. But what I think is important, especially for this month, is sometimes it is really important or considered a bigger change. So can we drill into a little bit more specifically of what's releasing this month that we have communicated and signaled as a pretty big change based on choices that we've made, but also what that then means to the customer? And I'll just frame it. Explain a little bit more this move from blue to teal. What was behind it and what does it mean for our customers?
Yes, it's a great question. So the default theme within SharePoint is going to be shifting from blue to teal. And a lot of this comes behind, over a year ago now, we introduced a new set of icons and colors for Microsoft products, SharePoint being one of those, where we transitioned from our old blue SharePoint icon and color scheme to a new teal icon and color scheme. And so with that, we wanted to be really strategic and thoughtful as we introduced this change across the board. And you will have seen throughout the product over the past year that in many places we've already updated logos. And so when you create sites, you see different logos, you see this. But the last piece of the puzzle has really been changing the default theme. And when I say default theme, what I mean by default theme is I have created a site, I'm not running a site design, and I haven't gone to change the look and changed that specific theme to something else. And so that site now, as it gets newly created, will change, and you will see that now being provisioned as a teal themed site. But one of the impacts to this is broader than just new sites. We are actually changing the default theme across the board, much like we did with our product icon of switching from our old blue icon to our new teal icon. And so what that means is that we are going backwards compatible to our existing SharePoint sites that have not been customized. I haven't selected a theme. I haven't run a site design. I haven't used Classic Change the Look. I haven't applied custom CSS, and we're going to change those sites as well from the blue theme to the teal theme. And so you'll experience this not only as you create sites moving forward, but with your existing sites that have not been customized in the past.
And one point of clarity, because I think it's an important one that you are always balancing. There is a default out-of-box experience for those teams or companies that either don't want to do any custom theming or custom design, or just want to stick with, what's easiest and a quicker time to market is just what you get. But it is not signaling a move away from not being able to customize your theme or your look and feel, correct?
That's correct, Mark. We still provide different abilities for you to customize the theme, whether it is our out-of-the-box themes that come by default with the Change the Look panel, of which you will see that blue theme that we've had as our classic theme will actually get added into our list. You will have that blue theme to select from if you so desire it moving forward, as well as the option to still create custom themes and have those come up and appear in there or be applied to your sites, whether that's through a site design or by adding it to the tenant via PowerShell and having it appear in the Change the Look panel. We still really encourage people to make choices that are right for their tenant and for their business as when it comes to changing the look and the theme of your sites.
Yeah, and that's part of what I really wanted to kind of start to wrap up on was that notion of getting it right. I think if you hadn't done that last component, which was really already in the product. That would have been a really significant change if we were trying to lock people out of customizing. But to get it right when it was ready for production, because we were not only influencing new sites, but addressing old sites that maybe hadn't been customized. Was there any kind of behind the scenes, just getting it right preparation that was just maybe a point of interest that we can share with the audience?
Yeah, this has really been something that we've been working on for a year within the SharePoint team and really testing to see exactly what triggers were going to be there and making sure that it was right. One of the biggest things that we learned very early on was that our existing teal theme that shipped with Change the Look by default was not entirely accessible. And so we actually went back and made some adjustments to the SharePoint product colors of the teal to produce a new teal theme that will be much more accessible and meets the current accessibility needs within our product. So it was actually something that took a fair amount of time for us to learn and then implement and test it before we were ready to make this change.
Yeah, it really gets back to that statement made a while ago by Satya, and really I think pervasive through a lot of the design efforts, is that accessibility is not an end mile feature that you tack on, that it really is a pervasive component of how we should think about how people engage with our products and services. So kudos obviously to taking that on, and I think that's a great one to wrap up on. So 2 last things. People are interested in this space. Design is always very important. It's the first thing that people see. Is there anything you can tease out that maybe we've talked about, but in this new context now we understand what's coming next from you and the team?
Yeah, we've really been looking and examining kind of what are some of the gaps that maybe exist when it comes to our current change the look and customization options for branding. And I think you'll start to see some of those coming out this summer and around the Ignite timeframe to really see us taking a look at what are people asking us for and how can we start implementing those and sharing those with our customers. As well as another thing that we're hoping to launch this summer is starting a design series and blog in the Microsoft technical community, where we will share tips and tricks from our wonderful design team who helps with the lookbook and some of the other great design components that you're seeing come out, and from myself as well, just sharing tips and tricks for how you can customize your sites better.
Very nice. I imagine people that we've had on the show before, so our audience will be familiar or can look back. That might be Denise Trebona, that might be Katie Swanson, and you and others bringing that to life. That'd be great. When you get there, I'd love to help highlight that and emphasize what you're all doing. I want to give you the chance here now to claim a little space, because SharePoint may have nudged into it with the update to the logo and the choice of teal. True or false? You were on the teal train prior to SharePoint jumping onto that track. Is that true?
That's true. People are actually surprised if they come to my house how many things in my house are actually teal, including big furniture pieces.
Well, I will just say one person can have that great of an impact. I think if Kathy hadn't joined Microsoft, joined the SharePoint team, we would not be seeing a new teal icon. I'll just put it on record. Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you've been doing to design SharePoint. You know, I used to think of common things we would hear from our audience, not the show, but our customers using SharePoint. Help me make SharePoint not look like SharePoint. That was a while ago. And it really has been in the last few years where it's the exact opposite. I want it to be more like SharePoint. SharePoint offers me all these options and it looks great out of the box. And a lot of what you've shared today, and of course, a lot of what you work on makes that true. So just passing along those statements, and you should take them, if you haven't heard them, to heart, that we're doing the right thing these days.
Well, thank you, Mark, and I'll make sure to share them with my great partners in the design team as well.
Excellent. Well, we want to round out with, if you have, active, like you said, that blog, when we get there, we'll certainly highlight that. But for now, how can people find out more about what you and your team are doing?
So you can definitely see our items appearing on the roadmap, but then you can also find information. You can follow me on Twitter at catpaint1. It's a great resource that I use to help share information, and we use that to amplify many things across the board.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, and great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
I I always love catching up with Kathy, certainly to learn about all of the new Fluent updates and specifically this move from blue to teal, but she also just brings a great perspective on all things SharePoint. She's been around for a really long time, and if I hadn't said it before a long time ago, I really love that she's now a part of the Microsoft family. Let's move now to talk about teamwork, all things teamwork. You working one-to-one or one-to-few with your team members on a recurring basis. First up, SharePoint lists and libraries have received a number of improvements. Let's take a moment to enumerate them and clarify the what and why of each. The team has been working hard to improve the overall quick edit experience. Quick Edit being a mode you can move into to make bulk updates and add list or file items quickly within lists or document libraries. You can now create and save a view in Quick Edit. It's that simple. You can save a view in Quick Edit for any SharePoint list or document library. Note, when a user saves a view in Quick Edit, the list or document library will always render in Quick Edit for easy inline editing. We are expanding the default Quick Edit view from 30 items to 100. You will now see 100 items per page on SharePoint document libraries or lists when using Quick Edit, aka less of a need to page through numerous items, noting that the majority of lists are greater than 30 items and less than 100, a nice data-driven outcome based on real customer use. You can also create all column types directly from Quick Edit, so not only going in and what's editing already there, but to be able to add a column and quickly edit it right there, staying within the Quick Edit experience. And last, 2 Quick Edit updates. These are all about the forms when you're in Quick Edit. You can get full visibility on a list or file item by viewing it via a form, now exposed through Quick Edit. You'll also see the New button on the command bar when in Quick Edit mode, so you can create new items via the input form, or of course you can add it just as you can as a row in a Quick Edit mode. Okay, moving beyond Quick Edit updates. We've updated the hyperlink and date column editors, mainly improving design consistency, user experience, and performance. I've been using this one a lot lately with the list that I manage for the overall internal list features roadmap, and I will say it saves me time and simply looks and works better. We've also made it possible to bulk edit your list items and file properties in the form. You can now select multiple items and edit their list item or document properties at once in the same form. Again, a big time saver. And the last item for SharePoint lists and libraries, the ability for related web parts to consume dynamic data. Dynamic filtering allows you to filter the contents of a list or library web part on a page depending on the value selected in another list or library web part. That's a connected experience. Think of one being a source and the other being a way to visualize the item details. It's a nice way to build quick productivity apps in conjunction with SharePoint pages. Overall, with SharePoint lists and libraries, I want to make one last note. Our documentation team has been working hard to update all the help and how-to materials for all things lists and libraries, all these updates. We'll link to all and more covered in the show notes. For the last teamwork item, we'll focus on an update to sharing links that block downloads. Today, you can create sharing links that block the download of Office files. This sharing link allows recipients to read the file but not download it. This month's update expands the list of supported file types to include PDF files, images, and audio files. The experience of creating a read-only, download-blocked sharing link is essentially unchanged. You must uncheck the Allow Editing for the block download toggle to appear. Note, admins can control whether the block download setting appears only for Office files or whether it will allow additional file types by editing the block download links file type setting in the Set SPO Tenant or Set SPO Site PowerShell commandlets. The options are Enable only for Office files or Enable for all supported file types, now the new default. It is time now to move to related technology. First up, PowerPoint Presenter Coach on Android. Last fall, the Virtual Presenter Coach released to PowerPoint for the web, and it is now generally available for Android devices both in the PowerPoint app and in the new Office mobile app. This feature uses AI to help you hone your public speaking skills by providing on-screen guidance on your pacing, use of inclusive language or profanity, and noting use of filler words and culturally insensitive phrases. At the end of each session, it also provides a detailed report with metrics for additional practice. Simply open any presentation, especially those stored in OneDrive, SharePoint, or Teams, tap the three dots for the More Actions menu, tap Rehearse with Coach, and then tap Start Rehearsing. I took this for a spin on a walk this weekend with my Pixel 3 XL plus the Office mobile app via some Bluetooth Samsung Galaxy Buds, and it worked great. I got some good feedback from my AI friend, a few slowdowns, and one, try not to read what's on the slide. I'm prepped and more confident for my session that I'll deliver later this week. Download either the PowerPoint Android app or the Office mobile app so you can experience coaching on the go. Next up, we've set a temporary increase to 20,000 attendees for live events in Yammer. Earlier this year, Microsoft announced this temporary limit increase would be enabled for Microsoft 365 live events to help better support customers through July 1st, and now we will continue this support until October 1st, 2020. Live events hosted in Teams, Stream, and Yammer can be up to 16 hours in length and have 50 concurrent events. Additionally, you can reach out to the Microsoft Live Events Assistance Program to host live events up to 100,000 attendees. Meet one-to-many with fewer limits when you need it most. This next item is for developers, especially those new to the Microsoft 365 development experience. Microsoft released the SharePoint Starter Kit version 2. This is a comprehensive solution designed for SharePoint in Microsoft and SharePoint 2019 on-premises, which provides numerous SharePoint framework web parts, extensions, and other components, as well as PnP PowerShell-driven provisioning, which you can use as an example and inspiration for your own customization. This too applies to building modern portals and package solutions in Microsoft Teams. In this update, you'll find samples, documentation, recent source code updates that match the current version of the SharePoint framework, and new sample layout site via the lookbook and more. This is one of those blog posts that you absolutely want to go into. There's a corresponding video that you need to click into to learn more and learn about all the goodness released as a part of the SharePoint Starter Kit V2. And as a part of this, I want to take a moment and give a shout out to all those who contributed. This is a really big community effort, and the short list of people that follow are the ones most engaged with the Microsoft 365 developer community to provide all of this goodness. So I want to give a shout out to Alex Tertniev, Bo Cameron, David Oppendries, David Warner, Elio Struff, Eric Overfield, Fabio Franzini, Paul Schifflin, Robert Schouten, Sebastian Lever, Vadman Despiand, Yannick Riekmans, Dragan Pankyov, Kevin Coughlin, Vesa Javonen, with a special recall out for Eric Overfield, who really helped coordinate all of this and is also the one that you'll see in the video example. I'll make sure to put links out here, and again, a great job, great community effort. Last, before we start to wind down into the teasers, I want to give a shout out to a few of our third-party events, all for supporting and promoting loads of online training that were free or very low cost to share update information and best practices. Microsoft 365 Virtual Marathon, Galactic Collaboration Summit, GlobalCon 2, VoloFest, Collab Days, and a few more. Thank you so much for your support of the community, and of course, on behalf of Microsoft and everyone who presented the sessions and benefited carrying their message out into the community. It was a pleasure to work with all of you and connect with the wonderful attendees and all of the event leads throughout the past few weeks. A community that learns together, stays together, and I look forward to continuing this as we move into the second half of 2020. Okay, close your eyes and visualize the future. Exactly 1 month from now, here are 2 teasers for what's coming soon in July 2020. Teaser number 1, updating the list and list item sharing experience. It gets a lot better. Teaser number 2, and if all the quick edit goodness wasn't enough from before, we're bringing a fixed row height for quick edit. That's it with the teasers. They're really nice, simple ones. We'll share more in the full SharePoint Roadmap Pitstop July 2020 edition next month. We've added a list of important resource links in the show notes and in the corresponding blog post on the Microsoft Tech community within the SharePoint community blog, giving you all that you need to get up to speed and stay ahead. I hope you've enjoyed this Roadmap Pit Stop. Time to relax knowing that you're all caught up. If anything seems funny or confusing, please send us your comments and ask questions. We're here to put both our and your best change management foot forward. BRB next month. Till then, stay productive.